A while ago, my 3-year-old was really into books, but did not read so well. Go figure, 3-year-olds, am I right? She was handy with an iPad though, so I had an idea. Get the iPad to read to her. From an earlier ChatGPT conversation, I learned that for iPad, I had to write a Swift Playground application. Now, I code well in a number of languages, but as a novice in Swift, I decided to try to get ChatGPT to code the whole thing for me. After one attempt at a proof of concept, I also knew that ChatGPT writes much better code for authenticated users. Seriously, my unauthenticated attempt produced code that would not even run. That's how I became a real authenticated ChatGPT user. Here is what happened after the solution was built.
I lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies, with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. Their house was small, for the lumber to build it had to be carried by wagon many miles.
This resulted from sending only 16 prompts to ChatGPT, including an initial description of what the application is meant to do, 3 about import problems, and 9 about bugs, mostly debugging text-to-voice functionality. The rest were clarifying functionality, asking for the full finalized code after each update instead of instructions to update the previous iteration, and unnecessary chit-chat. And that's how ChatGPT did all of the work. Just built my entire proof of concept for me. Now let's see a quick demonstration on the iPad I actually used to build this.
I lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies, with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. Their house was small, for the lumber to build it had to be carried by wagon many miles. There were 4 walls, a floor and a roof, which made one room, and this room contained a rusty-looking cooking stove, a cupboard for the dishes, a table, 3 or 4 chairs, and the beds. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had a big bed in one corner and Dorothy a little bed in another corner. There was no garret at all, and no cellar, except a small hole, dug in the ground, called a cyclone cellar, where the family could go in case one of those great whirlwinds arose, mighty enough to crush any building in its path. It was reached by a trapdoor in the middle of the floor, from which a ladder led down into the small, dark hole. When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked around, she could see nothing but the great gray prairie on every side. Not a tree nor a house broke the broad sweep of flat country that reached to the edge of the sky.
So that works now. I will still read to my kid, but it will not have to be constant, as the bulk of reading can be automated and continue for hours if he wishes. In implementing this concept, the only technical knowledge I benefited from was a general familiarity with IDEs. It felt very much like collaborating with a remotely situated expert Swift programmer. Now that I can call up any such expert on demand, I can throw together all sorts of projects that have been on my to-do list. See you next time!